boba tea,
gnarly,
matcha,
gnarly,
pilates,
gnarly.
party in the Hollywood Hills. Are you confused yet? Don't worry. Let's circle back to this.
Hi, welcome to our podcast. We're your host. I'm Hebe.
And I'm Valentina.
So we're about a year out of college and we're basically having our little quarter life crises. Just kidding, kind of. We probably need therapy, but we decided to start a podcast instead because what can you do as a Gen Z?
For everyone listening, we created Let's Circle Back after Hebe had this crazy idea to start a Gen Z marketing podcast. It's our way of combining the early corporate experience with our chronically online reality, our chronically online tendencies. We can't offer surefire career advice or dissect the P&L, whatever that means, but we can tell you about what we're seeing, what we're doing, and what we're liking.
And just as a quick disclaimer, this podcast is not corporate affiliated and all the views are our own. This is just a really cute passion project that we wanted to do because, having a podcast is kind of a canonical Gen Z event.
Yep.
And for our very first episode, we want to talk about social media's favorite it girl drink of the moment, which I know Valentina may have made for this podcast. So today we want to talk about what is matcha, why is it so popular, and maybe we'll make a little prediction, a little forecast on what might come next. So this idea kind of came when, one, we both know of matcha. We're both pretty big matcha drinkers, but a couple weeks ago, I was on Instagram and I was basically scrolling and came across this post that said Japan is not keeping up with the global demand for matcha. They can't make enough supplies. And so we're like, what is a better, kick-off episode for our podcast than matcha? We're not going to go into like the history of matcha, but we want to talk a little bit about our own personal experience of how we got into matcha. Maybe that could be an insight into why matcha got so big among Gen Zs. Have you remembered how you got into matcha, Valentina?
I think I'm just going to tell the story about me in high school because I can't trace it back further. I feel like I've been drinking green tea for almost as long as I can remember, which is probably not healthy if you're too young because of the caffeine content. But in high school, when I was really getting into bubble tea gnarly, my friend took me to this place called Boba Guys, and she got a green tea, like milk tea drink. And I was like, oh my God, I've never tried that before. It's just, you have to get into matcha. And that's obviously a little bit of hyperbole, but I think she was my gateway into drinking matcha more regularly. I came in through the bubble tea drink. Never really liked tapioca pearls, so eventually I converted into a fruit tea only girl. But after trying it in the bubble tea form, I started figuring out how to make my own matcha latte. Had the canonical trying matcha at a chain coffee shop, which was really low quality and didn't like it and thought for a second I didn't like matcha. And then figured out that if you get artisanal matcha or you go to a coffee shop that specializes in it, it can be kind of chef's kiss. So that's my how I got into matcha. What's your version?
So I grew up pretty much immersed in Asian culture. My parents were both Chinese. And I think matcha has always been big in Asian countries. I mean, its roots trace back to Japan/China with Zen Buddhist monks drinking it. So I feel like matcha has always existed in my periphery, oftentimes as a flavor for desserts. But if we're talking about the first time I ever had a matcha drink, I think it was in college, like 2020 at Starbucks, or maybe 2021, because 2020 was quarantine.
Yeah.
I hated it, absolutely. I don't know why. I was like, this is grassy. Why would anyone drink this? So I think there was like a 2-3 year pause. And then all of a sudden, recently, I found myself back into drinking matcha. And I'm like, what changed? Did I actually start liking matcha, or did I gaslight myself into liking matcha because I see everyone liking matcha?
Oh, that's tea. Do we want to talk about that?
We'll circle back.
I feel like that's why we're here.
I feel like there's always a health component to why people drink matcha. I think matcha has really great branding in general. Because when you think of matcha, it's like supposedly this healthier option compared to coffee. I mean, it still contains caffeine, but I don't know the logistics behind how matcha is healthier, but it seems to be that consensus.
Should we include a disclaimer for everyone who doesn't know? My sisters in Christ, please know, matcha has so much caffeine. Matcha might even have more caffeine than coffee. I don't know the exact amount, but it's a form of green tea. Please do not be consuming an abundance of matcha thinking that it has no to low caffeine content. The girls on Instagram with their neon green matcha drinks that are doing like 6, 8, 10 grams of matcha to fill their tumblers, that's not good for you, sisters. In the same way that it does have a lot of caffeine, matcha does have a lot of like health benefits. This is something that I'm not an expert at, but I have looked into it a little bit. I think matcha has tons of antioxidants. I think a lot of tea products do. But the coolest thing about matcha, and unfortunately, I wish I had the science background for this, but there's some articles, you can search it up. The NIH did a study about it. The something in matcha can combat breast cancer stem cells. And so it's like especially good for women, which unsurprisingly, I feel like the large population of online personalities that are consuming matcha regularly are women.
Yeah. No, I think you're onto something. I feel like if you're looking not just limited to beverages or drinks, I think if you look back into cosmetics and beauty products, isn't it just me or there's a lot of tea-based ingredients? Like for some reason,
Yeah.
both of my shampoo and conditioner as of right now are tea tree shampoo and conditioners.
Yeah.
Which brings us to the next point about is people doing it for actual health or because there's this idea that there's a trendification of health concerns? Or I think a good way to put it is maybe like wellness consumerism,
Yeah.
this idea of self-care for the sake of aesthetics or for the trend.
How do we even open this Pandora's box of topics? Because there's so much to talk about with just this idea that is matcha good for you or is it just good for you because it's trendy? I think we both agree that recently, I think 2025 especially, matcha has become sort of a fashion item, a fashion accessory. If you want to complete your look in a photo, you want to be holding your bright green little matcha in a clear cup specifically because if it's not clear then no one can tell that you're drinking matcha, so there's no point.
Exactly. Exactly. I think you mentioned you wanted one of those clear
Yes, I
tumblers.
do. I'm guilty. I really want because my current tumbler is opaque and it's black and it's so cute, has tons of little stars on it, but I want a clear cup so that when I go to work, people can see that I'm drinking a matcha or a hojicha or worst case like a kombucha if I'm really feeling it.
Yeah, I remember seeing it in an office. It's cute on its own, but you're right. I think what's the point of drinking matcha if no one can see you drinking matcha?
Okay, but we were doing it first. We
You're
were doing
right.
it before this current peak. But if we want to talk about trends, I think, are we in agreement that it's kind of like the clean girl, Pilates girl drink?
Yep, yep. Yeah.
Okay. In my head right now, and this is crazy, I picture blonde, workout set Pilates girl holding her matcha. She's like walking to her Pilates class. She has a very cute, maybe not even fully practical workout set on, and she's drinking matcha.
No, I have that same picture. What a coincidence. It belongs in that starter pack for anyone who wants that clean girl aesthetic. It just goes on to show that, for some people, they definitely drink matcha for the health benefits or for like a healthier caffeine intake practice than coffee. But to drink matcha isn't just the act of drinking a beverage, it adds on to your personality. It's like a personality trait, as bad as it sounds. This drink is made for social media. It has that aesthetic appeal, like green or pastel matcha green is a huge color right now. And everyone can drink it. So there's this degree of relatability. If you see your favorite micro or macro influencer drinking it on their feed, if you get it, you kind of, I don't know how to exactly describe this, but it's almost like you can be them. You can easily replicate it.
Oh my God, it's like how Emma Chamberlain used to drink an iced coffee every day, and then I started drinking an iced coffee every single day.
Yeah. And I feel like, I don't know if it's just for matcha, but for drinks in general, I feel like I see a lot of those type of beverages or cups, Stanley cups, in like get ready with me videos. I know home cafe reels are a big thing right now.
Stop,
Valentina, you make
stop,
them.
stop. I'm obsessed with home cafes.
So I feel like this argument that drinking matcha is a fashion statement isn't that abstract or absurd.
My friend of almost 11 years, who I've never seen touch anything other than like a like a venti iced coffee, bought her first matcha kit a couple weeks ago. And she sent me a text and she said, "Can you teach me how to make matcha? Because I'm obsessed, but I don't know how to do it." And I was like, oh my God.
Did you ask her why?
No, I didn't. I should have. It would have been such good content. But I was like, if it's reached her, then it's left like my corner of the internet, which has always had matcha as a part of it. And now it's like, that's mainstream.
I just use the Trader Joe's latte mix and I throw it in a bottle and start shaking it with milk inside.
It's like a
That's my
protein
matcha
shake.
routine. Exactly. But is there anything in the recent past that you feel like resemble the matcha craze, this trend?
Let's talk about that because it's so relevant to the drink I made before we started, except you can't even tell. Matcha is not the first time that we've seen drinks go viral on social media. Obviously, even the word viral feels kind of useless now because every few days there's something new that blows up and then dies out really quickly. But during peak coronavirus time, Dalgona coffee of Korean origin, a la Squid Game, was going really, really viral. It had everyone in a chokehold, and I'm surprised. I don't think I ever tried to make it until today,
Whoa,
but
you're lying. That's okay. No, when you said Dalgona coffee, when you texted to me Thursday night, it literally unlocked a forbidden memory in my head. Like it was long lost, forgotten. But when you said it, my mind just clicked because I made it. It has reached the corner of Southern Virginia when I was in high school, locked down during COVID. But I definitely did not see it on TikTok because I joined TikTok during college.
yeah.
I feel like I saw it in YouTube vlogs. It makes sense because during that time, everyone was stuck in their home. So we're all curious about what other people are up to. So I feel like that was a time when home vlogs, home cafes kind of blew up because we crave connectivity.
Yeah.
And that kind of peeked through. But you're right. I think it's like a precursor to matcha. But I also think there's a fundamental difference between Dalgona coffee and matcha because Dalgona coffee became viral because people started seeing it. It's something new. It's easy to make. So when people are bored, they're like, let me just try this out in my kitchen because I have time and I can't go anywhere. Whereas matcha is more like tags on to aesthetic. You don't really need that connectivity. You just want it because it's visually appealing and it adds to, I guess, your personality. I think coffee's one. Some people drink coffee purely because they need to wake up, but some people take coffee very seriously. I'm not that big of a coffee drinker, but I do have a non-coffee example of how drinks can be a status symbol.
Let's do it.
And this might be a little bit of me exposing myself. When I was in middle school, 6th grade, it was a time, transitioning from elementary school. So I found myself having like a new crowd of friends. Those friends were specifically emo kids. I was part of the emo slash scene slash goth crowd. Can you imagine? To people who know me in real life,
I was gonna
can
say,
you
if you
imagine?
guys don't know Hebe, she wears like very minimalistic clothes. Like she has like maxi skirts, jeans, trousers. She has like this cute pair of New Balance sneakers. Always very put together, very chic. And then for her to whip out the hey, I used to be seriously emo was the most diabolical conversation.
No, like black
Oh.
eyeliner on the bottom eyes, pierce the veil t-shirt, like straight up black outfits every day. My hair parted to the side covering my eye. Part of my emo starter pack during middle school was Monster Energy.
In middle school.
Yes, at the age of 11 or 12 years old, I had my first energy drink. I don't know if this is a consensus among all the emo kids of that time of 2013, maybe 2013, 2014. But for some reason, having like a Monster energy drink, it added on to your emo persona. I think the rationale at the time was their logo looked like the claw of a beast, and it's like demonic, satanic, and people were like, you know what? That's emo. So that's my little anecdote of how a drink can be a status symbol in the most unserious way.
You know, this kind of applies to so many things if I just think about it. Looking at like our notes, a spoiler alert for listeners, we take notes before we film. Whoa, crazy. Anyways, I'm going to unlock another memory for you. Do you remember the Visco girl
Yes.
moment?
Oh my God.
That was with
Yes.
hydro flasks, right? Hydro flasks and scrunchies.
Yes.
That was
Yes.
another moment of time where a drink became a huge, the face of a personality. Because it was the scrunchy Visco girl, and when they say Visco, it's like the saturated, kind of grainy beach photo. Last year, I think, Water Talk and the Stanleys. Why are we selling out Stanley cups?
Maybe this is a little spoiler for the next episode, but I think beverages, or like in this case, water bottles, matcha, in some cases, is kind of docking into that overconsumption trend
Yeah.
that we're seeing on social media, because I definitely do remember people buying a crap ton of Stanleys.
Like, what makes the Hydro Flask good for the Visco girls, or matcha good for the Pilates girls, or what's the next? Let's cook. Let's do some forecasting right now.
Yeah. Well, one, I think it has to be accessible. Like, you need to be able to make your matcha at home. You need to be able to recreate how your favorite influencer recreates hers.
Yeah.
And I think that's very doable with matcha. And in the case of like Stanley cups and hydro flasks, I think how they recreate it is by putting decorations on it. Do you know how many
my
people
God,
put stickers?
stickers.
So I think that is a crucial one. Second is appeal, aesthetic appeal. It has to look cute. Obviously, if it's going to be part of your fashion, it has to look fashionable.
I guess that makes sense because I don't, like, if I think of like a glass of orange juice, like, I don't see, I don't see orange juice going viral.
Yeah, I'm not going to pull up with orange juice in my hands.
Okay,
Are
but
you
low key,
kidding?
like a small carton of like apple juice, that could be a thing. No? Okay.
No.
Okay,
Unfortunately,
okay.
cartons give very childish looks. But what do you have when it comes to forecasting what could take off next?
I think we're gonna see a hojicha trend. It might not be as big as matcha, but I think she's gonna get her chance to shine.
And I think, to your point earlier, it's hard to get matcha right now.
Yeah.
So what are people gonna go for next? Like you, maybe a
Right.
hojicha. Yeah.
Here are other things I think we're gonna see, and I don't know exactly what form. I think flavors like lychee and passion fruit are gonna be everywhere. And I say that because acai is pretty popular with the healthy girl crowd.
Didn't you go to an opening of a Vietnamese coffee shop recently in NYC?
Yes.
I feel
It's
like
so good.
if it can pop up in New York City, it can pop up elsewhere.
Yeah.
Maybe that's a sign. We're gonna see more.
And it's not even the first. But I also know we've talked about this. They opened a Thai tea shop also in Manhattan, and I've never seen that before. And guess what? Somehow I've never had Thai tea, and I want to go and I want to try it.
If you think about it, all of these flavors are Asian or like Asian inspired flavors. So this raises a kind of serious question about appropriation, because with matcha recently, I don't know who and I don't know what context, but I was on TikTok and I saw this guy trying to make tube matcha. I don't know what the reason was. Maybe it was for convenience. Maybe it was just trying to be innovative.
I think his idea was to facilitate the process, but people did not like the way he presented it because did you see this exact video? It's like he's like standing showing his product and he goes, something, something, but you don't need all of this crap. And the crap that he mentions is the Japanese whisk, the Japanese matcha powder, the rest of like the traditional Japanese kit, quote unquote, that you need to make matcha. And the guy who created this product was not Japanese.
That reminds me of the Shark Tank boba tea incident. And I think Simulu was involved in it.
Yeah.
But basically, was it a couple? I think it was two people went on Shark Tank and presented their boba tea take. They presented it as a better, healthier alternative to traditional boba. And people were rubbed the wrong way. They're like, one, you're kind of capitalizing on this drink that came out of, I think it came out of Taiwanese culture.
Yeah, I think so too.
And you're shitting on it basically. And that just did not sit well with the Asian American community here in the US. So I feel like regardless of what's coming next, when brands are thinking of integrate, especially non-Asian owned or not owned by businesses of that product's origin or that flavor's origin, being careful about presentation and how you and why you innovate on that flavor will be very important, especially in today's society.
That's probably what our biggest, the most valuable takeaway from today's episode is, hey, if you want to take something that comes from a culture that's not your own, maybe do a little bit of research, talk to a few people, learn a thing or two. I'm going to shout out my girl, Ashley Alexander, your mom, Ashley, on YouTube, because she's Korean, but has grown up in America her whole life. And for years, matcha has been a big part of her online brand, which is what we're talking about the whole time here. So she started her own matcha brand. But instead of starting a matcha brand and calling the matcha making process crap, she spent a ton of time in Japan learning about the process, talking to people, figuring things out. And now she sells her matcha. Her business is doing so well.
I think that's important because for now, I feel like I only see matcha in the form of lattes you get at coffee shops. But I don't know if brands are doing this already, but maybe some brands will start integrating matcha flavors into their products. And I think that would be a good lesson learned moment where you need to be mindful of how you start integrating something from someone else's culture into yours.
Trader Joe, if you're listening, can I get a matcha covered pretzel, please?
Oh my God, you just
Begging.
planted an idea in their head.
For free. You're getting
For
this for
free.
free.
Well, that kind of wraps up our main topic of today, which is we kind of went from just our personal experiences with matcha into like a more serious conversation about why matcha took off on social media, which we think has a health component, but also this fashion component to it, this aesthetic. And then we ended up with forecasting. So I call today a success, don't you think?
Absolutely. I actually didn't realize we even talked for that long, so this is
Is
magical.
fun. And Valentina and I thought it would be a really nice way of ending these episodes by highlighting some brands, trends, slash memes, slash internet shenanigans at the end. So the funniest thing I see on social media this past week was the Annabelle US tour. I don't know if people know, I'm a huge horror movie enthusiast. One of my favorite horror movie universe is the Annabelle Ed Lorraine Warren series. And apparently they were taking Annabelle the doll, the real doll, on tour around the US.
Why would you mess around with that?
According to TikTok, she has been wrecking up some havoc
Yeah,
in the states that she's been in. Allegedly, allegedly, she caused like this plantation farmhouse to literally burn to the ground in New
Yeah.
Orleans. And so now everyone on TikTok is making videos about it and channeling demonic powers to help them with personal but also political issues that they have strong feelings about. So that is meme slash news of the week that I have to bring to the table.
Okay, I would like to talk about the Laneige. They have a matcha flavor lip balm and a taro flavor lip balm. And the timing was almost uncanny with when we were planning this and when they did their rollout. They did a pop-up with Boba Guys, which is a bubble tea shop. Crazy lines. Like unbelievable lines to get a chance to get these products and like a special custom drink for the day. I thought the rollout that they did was really like, they knew what they were doing. I saw so many New York-based Asian creators pumping out the content, travel content, drinking the matcha content, obviously carrying around the lip balm and the lip mask while they were getting the matcha to match. I'm sure they're not the first brand that's going to take a moment for matcha. I could really easily see other beauty brands kind of tap into that, do a little bit of a matcha collection. Green tea I see more for skincare, but matcha for beauty, I I have no trouble believing that we'll see more products like that.
I wish I saw that ahead of time because I think it was on NYC for free,
Probably.
which is where I find all my pop-ups. Tips to
Absolutely.
brands, if you're doing pop-ups in New York, the girlies are on NYC for free because we love some free stuff.
Yeah. And she somehow knows everything that's happening.
So do we want to circle back to what gnarly means finally?
Oh my God, what a perfect, beautiful way to end this. For listeners who heard our opening, somehow sat through all of our yapping, and are still wondering what the hell we were talking about when we were saying gnarly, the global girl group Cat's Eye under Hebe and Geffen released a song a few weeks ago titled Gnarly. And truly, it shook the internet to its core. People hated it for like 30 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And now, no one can stop citing, singing, repeating the verses to that song. There's something addictive about it that has universally, that's a bold claim, but I'm going to claim it anyways, changed the minds of listeners. And Cat's Eye knew it was going to happen all along. In their lives, they kept going, the girls that get it, just give it some time. I'm a convert.
No, I was a hater at the beginning,
Me
but
too.
the more I listened, my brain chemistry literally altered. But did you see how the Subway Surfer inspector character mascot were dancing to Gnarly on TikTok?
Listen, brands, by this point, it's definitely too late to hop on that trend, but
Keep an eye
the
out.
next time, I was gonna say, the next time someone does something like that, I loved how the little Subway Surfers guy did it. It was so silly. And Cat's Eye is also marketing this song really well. Did you see they did that collab in LA with a coffee shop or a sandwich shop, and it was like the gnarly sandwich? Because in the beginning of the music video, they're making a sandwich.
Yeah, they had a sandwich.
They did their thing with Urban Outfitters this week in New York, which we're both really upset about because we didn't get to go see their free show. Everything's gnarly.
Everything's gnarly.
Those were our top highlights of the week. We're working, as you can tell, this was only the first episode that we filmed for this podcast, and though we came in with an outline and some bullet points, we did go off on tangents. I would argue that some of the best conversations Hebe and I have are purely based on tangents that we have while we go get water at work or like grab lunch, things like that. So moving forward, we will we welcome any and all feedback, topic requests, things that you're curious about, because while we cannot speak for everyone, we do have a lot of thoughts on a lot of things, and we'd love to bring our perspective into your lives. That's it for today's episode on Matcha. And with that, we're wrapping up the first episode of Let's Circle Back. This was Valentina.
And this is Hebe.
And we'll see you next time.